This is Recover with Cal, and I'm here to share my journey with you.
This podcast is intended to not only help Callam in his recovery, but also to give hope and support to others who are going through difficult situations in their lives.
All right, welcome. I'm your host, Callam Oliver.
Welcome back.
Yeah, this is my good friend, Gary Nickel.
Having a lot of fun here in the old studio with my Seahawk.
Yeah, that's right. And, this is the third episode, Gary.
It's so crazy, dude. It's so much, like, fun is the word, right? We're having fun doing this.
Yeah, you have to.
With all the seriousness and all the heaviness, we're having fun.
There is a lot of darkness that starts to creep in, for sure.
I'll tell you, as a guy who worked in a newsroom for a long time, we call that newsroom humor.
Okay,
It's
gotcha.
like where you go to like the darkest jokes to lighten the mood because everything you're talking about all the time is so heavy.
Right.
There's a lot of that going on here. I think that's pretty sweet.
And, looking back at the last episode.
Yes.
That was an emotional one for me.
Dude, literally. Like, you revisited the emergency surgery from your accident. That's like insane to even comprehend. And even more so when you realize that you have very little memory of everything that's sort of gone on, right? And you talk to your beautiful wife, Laura, about it, and emotions came out like they tend to do on this show. And man, you painted the picture very well of, just a little snippet of what went on and what you went through and how it affects you as you move forward as well.
Right. And, the big takeaway for, how it affected me with that unknown memory. And there's a little bit of, there's some more unknown memory in this episode as well. But, I fell into this, this cycle of my mind thinking like, oh, I wonder what happened. I wonder how it went to get what if,
Trying to fill in the gaps.
Yeah. And, it was hard to get out of that cycle of thoughts. And I think, revisiting it with Bush in episode 1 and Laura in episode 2, it's helped me to be like, okay, like, thank you. I have gratitude for them. I have gratitude for the surgeon, the emergency personnel that helped me. And I feel like I can start to be okay with moving forward.
That's it. Getting over those mental hurdles. Yeah. That's a lot. So today we're getting into another thing that was a very big part of getting you here today in this whole recovery process. The people that were there for you through all of this stuff. In this episode, we're going to, lean into the next moments in your story, as this is where your whole hospital stay sort of begins.
That's right. I was moved post-surgery into ICU. So that's the intensive care unit. Yeah. And my memory of this is pretty vague. And so I'm going to call on an interview. I called up my Aunt Colleen.
Nice.
And, we'll get to that later on in this episode. But she helped, fill me in with some more of the ICU setting. But essentially, I woke up in a hospital bed and at the University of Saskatchewan. Yep. And I couldn't really move. To be honest, I didn't dare move because you're just like wondering, where am I?
What is happening?
Yeah.
What is this?
And you start to, I was trying to start in a piece of my mind, what was going on. I had IVs attached to me, catheter attached to me. So, it was
lucky.
Yeah. I'm just stuck in a hospital bed. Essentially, I was bedridden.
Yeah.
Right.
Literally. In every sense of the word.
Yeah. Nurses would have to move me around to do different sort of care. I just kind of was able to lay straight. And I didn't really know my full extent of my injury. Yeah. It started to be told to me, but just the environment was scary, to be honest.
You think?
You're
That's like,
attached to
those are
things.
literal nightmares that like
Yeah.
people that can use their body wake up with.
Claustrophobia.
Yeah, like all of those things at once. Like
Yeah.
that's horrifying.
Oh, totally. You're in a small room,
Oh,
curtains, right? There's
that's how horror movies start,
yeah.
dude. That's how freaking The Walking Dead started.
Waking up and don't know like how long have I been like
Yeah.
this, right? Like,
What
oh
year is
man.
it? Like
Yes.
literally. And we laugh at that, but like those are the thoughts you have when you
Oh
come
man.
to, right?
Yeah, and you know, the other bit was, did I like want to move? You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Like so many thoughts, like just in my crazy brain alone, the fear, like, so, and this is on such a tiny, tiny, minuscule level of what you're dealing with. When I was water sliding, I told this story before on the water
Oh,
sliding
right.
bros. Check it out,
Yes.
seasonal show, beer review show, fantastic, starring this guy and our buddy Benji. I was water sliding in Calgary, and I was chasing the not son. That's what we called the step kid, the not son. And I got pissed off, and I was like, this kid's getting cocky. I can't have that, so I'm gonna race down and I'm gonna beat him. So I went full on heels, elbows, way too big for this water slide. And there's some aggressive turns at the end, and then I hit this little loop. I went up this way, then up this way, and all the way out the top. And just caught myself landing back in and smacked the back of my head. And
Right.
I compare the sound that it made to the star that you get when you play Mike Tyson's Punch Out. You get a star, goes beep-a-loop. It's like this weird little, like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. But when I poured out the bottom of the water slide, like my whole body was tingling.
Mm-hmm.
And I landed into the pool, and I said, okay, well, I hope my legs work.
Right.
And so I put one leg, I sort of move it and put it down on the ground. I'm like, okay, there's my leg. And I was still like floating. I was like, what about my fingers? And I like went through like a body check
Yeah.
just to make sure I had everything. And then like everything was tingling and numb, and it was like a really weird, scary situation. And so that just sort of faded away, obviously. This is that, but on a million times bigger scale.
Yeah.
Like this is life altering stuff.
Yeah, like in my mind when I was in the ICU, obviously I was like getting to like, okay, what happened, what was wrong with me?
Yeah.
And, coming to realize like I'm paralyzed now,
Yeah.
right?
Like do you remember the first time you like tried to move your feet or your legs or anything like that?
Just vaguely, I remember a doctor once I was conscious in the room with me, and they were going through like a checklist of feeling,
Yeah.
and he asked me if I could, like move my toes. He asked me if I could feel different parts of my body.
And this was before you knew that you were paralyzed?
Well, like it was kind of strange because I I think I knew, and
Subconsciously.
yeah, and
Yeah.
like thinking back to the first two episodes, I was conscious and taught and like and realized it, like Bush told me, and that like I kind of told him I couldn't move my legs or whatever, and they knew. Laura, after the surgery, knew, of course, and that sort of thing. So, I feel like I came to terms, not not came to terms with it, but I feel like
Accepted it?
I don't know if I've accepted it either yet, to be honest, but
I love
and I
that.
think that takes a long time.
Well, I don't want you to accept it because there's so much progress in all of this stuff, those neural links, and there's so many. Like the big joke is there's never been a better time to be paralyzed than right now
Oh,
because like they are working
yeah.
on crazy.
I haven't
crazy
heard that
stuff.
joke, but
Well, I mean, if it's gonna happen, this is the best time to have it happen because the technology is so close and so ready to like get an implant into your brain that lets you
sure,
use
like
everything you need.
I want to have hope, and
Yeah.
of course, but
There's also
you know,
the reality, of course.
I know that, and it's been kind of talked to me about. It takes a long time to accept it,
Oh, yeah.
and like even though like like, oh man, I'm 6 months from my accident, my recovery journey is far from
It's
over.
just starting. Literally.
And yeah, so I've just heard from other people like, 2 years and you find yourself, okay, this is my normal life
This
now.
is who I am. Yeah.
But like in that instance of learning, man, I grieved. right? Like, of course,
Of course you do.
I still do.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like like a Groundhog Day for me right now. It's like I wake up every morning, and it's like it sounds like so bad, but it is true. I wake up every morning like, and again I realize like,
Oh yeah.
oh, I
I'm
yeah, like
paralyzed.
I'm not gonna sit up without assistance,
Here's a
right?
weird
Without
question for you.
doing like some certain things,
Weird
right?
question for you. Do you have dreams where you're walking around?
No, but I wish I did.
Well, those could come. So
Could be.
I think about, and I feel so dumb relating to like this situation to these little things in my life. But Maggie, my three-legged puppy, when she has dreams, her little stump, it's
Yeah.
going. And I'm like, oh man, she's got that fourth leg in the dreams. I know, and she's just living that full four-leg puppy life. I feel like those dreams will start coming where you're walking around and you're doing your thing.
Yeah, well, maybe that'll be
Something to
part
look
of.
forward to.
Yeah, so sure.
Oh
uh,
man, that's so. Yeah, I do remember, and we've gone back to this before too. When I got the phone call about what happened, and the words that I used were so like paralyzed, and the response I received was, "We don't know yet," but it was said in such a way where it's like we know, but we're sort of praying for a different outcome.
right.
So like everybody, even when we came to see you once we were allowed to, and we were talking about the ICU, the 2 people per visit type of thing.
Right.
I was there, and then your mom came to visit, and that was 2 people, and then your dad was outside, and then your mom's like, well, actually, Garth's here too. It's like, oh, and then the nurse looks at me like, my bad, guys, I'm out. Just like
Right.
mom and dad are just the fat guy who wants to hug his buddy. So I remember walking out and like tagging your dad in, and like you're up. He's like, okay, we'll be quick. I don't take your time. It's all good. But like those little things and how they connect. Like I hadn't talked to your parents in a long time.
Right.
Like I think the last time the last time I saw your dad, I believe, was at Dennis Trumpy's birthday party.
Okay.
It was like a couple of years ago. Like that's sort of how long it's been. So uh, the coming together of friends and family around all of this, and that's sort of the idea for today's episode. Like it was so incredible to reconnect with your parents, and then like all the millions of your siblings, and like all the friends that we hadn't seen in such a long time. Like the coming together over the tragedy was just is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I think that becomes like a more of a theme in my recovery as I
Yeah,
got better.
for sure.
In ICU, like that week, it was like super dark for me.
I know, dude. I remember it, and I will tell it probably every episode of this show. The first thing you said to me when I walked in, you couldn't even turn your head. You were just staring up like this, neck brace huge, just couldn't move, and you just looked over with your eyes and you said, GM, what are you doing out of the house? And I had to tell you, it's like, this seemed like a situation where I could probably muster up the gusto to
Yeah.
come see you, buddy. And that like this was a perfect icebreaker. And then we cracked jokes, and then we talked about the darkest of dark times for you, and we related on stuff, and we like helped each other up. And I imagine you got lots of that from everybody.
Yeah, I had to get to that point. Um, you know, after I realized I was paralyzed, I I really had some really dark moments,
Yeah.
probably the darkest moments in
Oh,
my life,
1,000%.
where I didn't know if I wanted to live anymore. I I thought my condition was um,
Burden.
a burden for other people. Maybe this part of this was probably my mental healing at the time too, but it was it was really difficult for me to want to live anymore.
Yeah.
And
I saw it. I saw it in your eyes. And, ugh,
yeah, and
such heavy shit.
it was it it was strange because there's a moment that all of a sudden my mindset changed, and I was able to like convince myself perhaps that yes, I wanted to continue
No,
to
no,
to
no. You
live.
know exactly what happened. Exactly what happened. Your incredible wife and 3 beautiful, amazing daughters told you you're an idiot for ever thinking you're a burden on anything. That's all it took. Your family reminded you how much they love you and how important you are. That's
Well,
all it takes.
you know, that
That's it.
that is right.
That's your world.
You know,
That's
like,
your whole world right there. And
you know,
the whole reason you felt like that was because you thought they would look at you as a burden instead of as dad and husband.
yeah, and you know, like as soon as I realized that, then you know, like my mind switched over. It was
Exactly.
like, okay, what can I do to get back to being with, you know, the people that I
Love.
love?
That's it. That's the whole game right there.
But you know, I think it's really important that people understand that, you know, in a recovery journey, there are the darkest of moments, and it's okay to accept them, and it's okay to, you know, like, just realize that this is how you feel so that you can get past it, you know. And it was a crazy moment for me in the ICU to have that realization that yes, like I wanted to
To live.
live.
That's man, and that's it's so common but so different on so many levels. Everyone has different paths to that big question.
Right.
And if you can get through it, it's such a huge, huge hurdle. But if you can overcome it, life gets so much better.
Yeah.
You just have to keep reminding yourself why you still want to be here.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's still part of my recovery journey. Like, I even right now, I struggle with the thought of, okay, how can I, you know, continue to give to my family? How do I,
How do I provide?
like, yeah, how do I, like, what are some responsibilities that I can take on? You know, like, and so it's still there, right? And
Yeah.
it's okay to, it's like you mentioned, like it goes beyond just my story.
Yeah.
It's everyone's
That's it.
story of dark moments in their lives,
So,
and overcoming barriers.
and this is a little bit of a tangent, but this whole studio, this Dufferin Avenue Media Network studio, was built through universal callings and built like by powers higher than me. I was just following sort of visions and dreams and talking to people. And it slowly made me realize the people with those dark thoughts. Like this place was built pretty much right after I overcame all of those horrible hurdles and the stuff that's inside your head. And then once you
Sure,
get
like your recovery journey,
and then
right?
once you get to that point, and this is why I bring this up. This place has brought in so many other people that have gone through those moments. I was talking to a guy the other day who was in here and doing a bunch of really good stuff with us. And he was telling me like he was full on gun in mouth. And this is really like, I'm sorry if this
Oh,
is too much.
jeez.
Right there, ready to go. And at that moment, he found out I do want to live. Like
Yeah.
everybody has to go to that darkest, darkest spot before you realize. And like for me, I was just a rock and I was done. I didn't feel, I didn't contribute, I didn't do anything. And then and you get in your head, you're like, well, what am I even doing? Why am I here?
Yeah.
And then after that, after I overcame all of that and realized I'm here to help other people go through what I just went through. And that's how this place became this place. And now I got people coming in here talking about the same stuff and how stuff like this, being able to create things and being able to chase dreams and, explore these passions that we have in life.
Yeah.
People talk about how amazing it is to have these things because it helps you get away from that point you were at.
A good friend of mine told me just this weekend, you know, I was kind of like talking to him about kind of the similar ideas that you're sharing,
Yeah.
you know, about like what my purpose is. Because, like, you know, I still, again, I was struggling with, oh, how do I help out around the house? How,
Yeah.
you know, like all these sort of stuff. And he's like, you know what, Calum, like, I believe that you're able to live that day so that you could continue to raise your girls.
Yep. And not only
And
that, spread awareness. Like this show is so important. That's why I'm so excited for this show because it's not about you. It's about everyone who's in a situation similar to you and how you can help them, how we can help, how this place can help, how just watching this video will get the word out and will help other people going through this same stuff. It's crazy, man. It's such a heavy thing for such a fun light studio. Hey, it's such a heavy thing, but it's what we all experience it. It's all around us.
Okay, like a recovery journey isn't easy. Let's get that out right now.
I don't know if you've noticed or not, but not the easiest time.
And like,
yeah, man. The importance
and what
of
I mean
having
by
your
that,
friends and family.
yeah, exactly. Like, and what I totally mean that that's for everybody, and that's what we're trying to reach out to right now. Is like for sure. This is some things that are I'm sharing my story, but
as you can tell, other stories come out too. Like that's the thing,
absolutely.
Everybody has a different path, but a lot of times they all come together at certain spots. And with the way like the world has been as a whole right now, everybody you talk to is always, oh, it's so hard and this, everyone's so down. It's like, no, we can't be down. We have to be up, lift each other up, and understand we're all here for each other. Mm-hmm. That's the whole point of this. Are we going to get into the phone call? I feel like we've talked for so long. We have all these things we want to do, and then we get in conversations.
I would love to share a phone call conversation that I had with my Auntie Colleen.
Auntie Colleen!
And she really helped to describe the ICU intensive care and kind of my time in there. So let's go ahead and play the conversation.
Woo!
Auntie, thanks for joining me and having this conversation. It was fitting you just gave me that that sneak peek into a letter you wrote to your friend during the time in the ICU. And, part of that letter, I can really see the tragedy that, not just what happened to me, but how it had effects on other people in the family.
Yeah, absolutely.
And those are things that I, don't know. And that's kind of what this, this podcast is all about, is kind of finding out these things, because I was in a pretty crazy state in ICU.
Oh, yeah. Well, just for your listeners, I'll give you a little description of my background. I'm Callam's aunt, and his younger sister is, his mom is my younger sister, pardon me, and I've known Callam since he came out and changing his diapers, and he's really been a very close and beloved nephew of mine amongst all the other kids Myra had. Anyway, I am a nurse, a retired nurse actually, and I spent most of my career in Vancouver at the Vancouver General in the critical care, emergency, ICU, and recovery room. So being so far away from the family, I didn't actually nurse anybody that I was related to until I retired and moved back to Saskatoon. So when I got the call from Laura saying that Callam was coming into RUH via ambulance and he'd had this serious mountain bike accident, I wasn't sure what to expect until I got to the emerge, and we got the news that he was permanently paralyzed from a T7 cord rupture. And he was calm, Laura was calm, everyone was calm, but I think the calmness was just shock, to tell you the truth. It didn't really dawn on us how shocked we were until Callam's dad walked into the emergency and looked at Callam and held Callam's hand and started to cry. And then it really dawned on us, wow, this is really happening. All through the emergency period in Emerge, Laura was so loving. She kept saying to Callam, listen, I'm here. Everything's going to be all right. The surgeon came in and let us know that he was taking Callam up to the OR to put a couple of rods between T5 and T8 to stabilize his spine, and that he would be going to ICU afterwards. So we went to the waiting room, and it was about 4-hour surgery. And in that time, Laura's sister-in-law and brother came up from Regina, and Callam's brother and girlfriend were there. So we were there waiting, and actually it didn't seem that long, and we just sort of chit-chatted to each other, and then we went up to see Callam in the ICU. And I know what people in ICU look like, but I have never seen someone that I loved in the ICU. So I think what I did is I went into nurse mode, not aunt mode, and I was looking at his collar, making sure it was on properly. And when you see somebody in the ICU, normally they're quite sedated because it's a noisy place. He had an arterial line, an ECG, a SAT monitor. He had a catheter, and they had just put a chest tube in, and that was draining. And so there's lots of tubes, and there's alarms going off and everything else. But anyway, that was, and the collar. I think the collar was the biggest thing because you couldn't turn your head. You were just sort of prisoned looking forward unless you turned your entire body, which you couldn't do at that point. There were a lot of neuro checks. You had a big gash along your forehead, and they were quite concerned that you were going to have a cerebral bleed, so they were on it, every couple hours doing neuro checks, and that's quite disruptive, but you were great. In fact, your short-term memory was good. You seemed to remember everything and spoke very concisely and logically. And then you told me that you don't remember anything from that first week, so that's quite amazing.
Yeah, my memory from it is vague. And I remember bits and pieces of it. It's interesting that you talked about, the tubes that were on me, and then just the environment of ICU with the noise and the hustle and bustle within that.
Yeah.
Now, you were a nurse working in ICU. What would be, like, from a medical point, a nurse is, like you said, you went into nurse mode.
Yeah.
If you were, a nurse in ICU, what would be things that you would be checking, doing?
Well, because you sustained the head injury, that would be something to be looking at. Like, are you aware of where you are? What are your pupils doing? Are you able to move your limbs? Well, you couldn't move your legs, but you could squeeze hands, follow commands, that kind of thing. Any sort of deviation from that would be concerning. Because you've got the collar on, how was your breathing? You had that punctured lung, so we're looking for air leaks around the chest tube. We're making sure that your SATs are fine. We're looking at your heart rate. Are you having pain? Is your heart rate going up? Is it in a proper rhythm? What's your blood pressure doing? Depending on the meds that we're giving you, is it going up? Is it going down? And with spinal cord injuries, the spine, you can just get a burst of high blood pressure and then it'll just sink. So, watching for those things. Looking at your urine output. You had a Foley catheter in, are you putting out enough urine? Just a real systematic thing, like head, heart, respiratory, chest, circulation, all the systems of the body kind of go down, and you're just always checking those. So that, that kind of intensive nursing and observation definitely is a one-on-one situation, which you had for the first couple of days.
Yeah. No wonder it's so busy.
Your big fears too is that if you aspirated, if you had a big plug of phlegm or something, with the collar on, and in addition to your T7 fracture, you also had a C6, which is the lower part of the neck.
That's right.
That's why you had the collar on. So we couldn't just whip you over and start smacking your back. So you're always sort of watching to make sure you don't aspirate. The other thing too is keeping everything clean around the patient, because if you had developed any sort of chest infection and having only half your diaphragm working, we'd be worrying about you developing pneumonias and everything else and having to be intubated. Now, thank God you're young, you're strong, you weren't coming in with a tube. But you can go that way if things, start to go south. It's not a good thing.
So, you mentioned coming into the hospital room and, you went into nurse mode, but what was it like for you or for, family or friends that were coming in there, but, specifically for you, seeing, your nephew, not a patient, being in a hospital bed like that?
Gosh, there's so many things, I have to think, actually, it's my first experience with someone in the family so desperately ill. But at that whole week, I was kind of numbed out, to tell you the truth. I wasn't feeling anything. I think, like you, I think it was after you'd gone out of there, when you were in the ward. And remember how angry I would get when things weren't being done correctly, and your bowels and your urinary and all that kind of stuff were just sort of hit and miss. And that's what I think. I think my emotions came out there, and they didn't come out as anxiety or depression. They came out as a bit of
I do recall you speaking to some of the medical people there, and that would just come in and you tell them exactly what they needed to do. I kind of thought, is she like overstepping some boundaries here? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I know what can happen on the ward because you get lost in the shuffle. And that's where people get sick. That's where they develop urinary tract infections. That's where they can go back to ICU from the ward if they're not being looked at. And they had good nurses, but it was a trauma ward. It wasn't a specifically spinal cord ward. So their lack of knowledge, was expected, actually. So
I remember you, and like even when I was in City Hospital, always introducing yourself as, I'm Callam's auntie. I'm a retired RN. Kind of giving your whole background.
Well, I had to give them the heads up because they think, well, what the hell is she talking about? What does she know? And then just to let them know that I'm there to help, not to judge, and not to, and that was good because they didn't take a lot of staff to turn you. They could use me, and we could get you up. And I learned a lot from them, and they were great, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm really happy that you're a part of my medical team.
Yeah, unpaid.
Yeah, for sure.
Not in money, anyway. I got a lot of joy, though, of seeing you get better and work hard, and you were kind of a star in your rehab, that's for sure. Felt very proud of you.
Well, you were my morning wake up.
Yeah, we had our routine.
Yeah, so Auntie would always come into the hospital every day that I was in there, and she'd bring me a coffee and just help me kind of get my day started, and that was really an important piece. Just like emotionally it was helpful, physically it was helpful, and I did appreciate the little extra caffeine intake.
Well, it was funny because I stop at the same Tim Hortons the same time every morning, which was about 6:45. And the girls there, every day, they started to get to know me. And they would start your order when they saw the lights in my car come up. I'd walk in there and they go, small coffee, 1 cream, 1 sugar. And I'm like, yeah. Anyway, they got to know that you were in the hospital, and the last day that you were there and you were moving to your mom and dad's, I had to tell them, and they were sad that they weren't going to see me, but they were thrilled that you were doing so well. Yeah, so that was kind of cool.
You always drank the hospital coffee. Tell the story about the hospital coffee.
Oh my gosh. So Callam is in ICU, and he is starting to wake up. We're starting to feed him, which is very important in ICU. You have to, if you don't start eating, they'll put a tube down your nose into your stomach and give you a lot of nutrition, because you're going to get too much muscle wasting and everything else if you don't get the proper nutrition. Anyway, so what had happened is we're trying not to go down that route, and I would sit you up in the morning and encourage you to eat. And this is what I wrote to my friends. Yesterday I was helping Callam sip some hospital coffee through a straw, and he said, Auntie, that is the best, worst coffee I have ever had.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh my God, it made me laugh out loud, and bless him, at that moment I knew that things were going to be okay. Our darling, wonderful Callam was still there.
Yeah, I was really happy that I came out of the ICU, and I think a big part of it was just the family and friend support
huge
that would come in, and just I came to terms with the love that was around me, and you're a big part of that.
Oh, well, thanks. So what I did, I'd go in when you're in ICU, sort of, I was out in the hallway for most of the day, and I would give a morning report, because honest to God, there was probably 400 people on our family thread, whatever, giving, and I would say how your night was and what the plan for the day was, and then before I left in the evening, I would give the night report to everyone, and that was my way of processing everything that was happening, I think. Still in nurse mode, but, you know, I could write it out. And that was crucial because everybody wanted to know things, and it was better that it came from one source and it was clear. And the feedback I got was it was really helpful. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm glad that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I would drink the hospital coffee because I didn't want it to go to waste.
Yeah.
And that stuff was caffeinated. Holy cow. Black.
It's a medicine in its own.
Yeah.
I thought I kicked that habit.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining me with this conversation. I really appreciate it.
Well, your successes, Callam, have been my successes and the family's successes. So keep it up.
All right. Thank you, Auntie Colleen, for sharing
So
that
sweet.
time with me and having this that conversation. And thank you for joining us for this episode and listening to my story, but hopefully it inspires other people in their own recovery journey.
This show is so cool. It's so unique.
And,
There's not enough of this, man. Thank you to you for doing all this. This is awesome.
and I guess the last thing that I want to say before I pass it over is, you know, in these darkest moments, you know, you can find light to rekindle your life.
Hear, hear.
And
Here.
I hope I give that hope to anyone that's listening.
That's beautiful, man. All right, so there you go. That is another episode of Recovery with Cal. Next episode, this is going to be good. We're going to follow Callam's recovery journey as he moves out of the ICU and into the trauma unit. Dun, dun, dun.
I thought it was going to be all like roses and beauty.
In case you're wondering.
I'm not there yet.
In case you're wondering, trauma unit does sound as bad as it sounds. It is. Hey, that's heavy stuff going on there.
All right.
Love you, buddy.
Until
Thank you so
next
much.
time.
You betcha.